AITA for refusing to wash clothes my boyfriend's after he told his mom I do nothing in our house. I'm a girl, not a servant, so let him do everything himself. I'm a 26-year-old woman and I live with my boyfriend, who is 28. We've been together for a little over 3 years now, and we've been living together for the past year. I thought we had a good rhythm going. We both work full-time jobs, we split the rent, we go out for dinner sometimes, binge-watch shows on weekends, and for the most part, we get along pretty well. But if I'm being brutally honest, there's a growing imbalance that I've been trying to pretend doesn't bother me, until recently. The thing is, while we both technically work the same number of hours, it feels like I'm the one also clocking in for an unpaid second shift every single day. I'm the one who cooks dinner 5 nights a week. I clean the bathroom, vacuum the floors, mop the kitchen, change the cat litter, buy groceries, plan meals, pay the utility bills on time, take our cat to the vet, and even organize our social calendar. I handle the laundry, washing, drying, folding. I know what kind of almond milk he prefers. I refill the Brita. I remember his mom's birthday. I make sure we don't run out of toilet paper. He, on the other hand, might occasionally take out the trash if I remind him twice. He might rinse his dishes, but more often than not, they're left in the sink for me to deal with. Sometimes he'll vacuum if he's feeling especially generous. But that's about it. I've brought it up multiple times. Gently, not so gently, in frustration, in calm tones. Each time, he gives me that sheepish smile and says, I'll try to do more. Sometimes he'll make a token effort for a day or two, like wiping the counter or tossing in a load of laundry, that I still end up folding, but it never lasts. And eventually, we fall back into the same pattern, where I do everything, and he conveniently forgets that I exist unless he needs clean socks or a dinner plate. Fast forward to last weekend. We were invited to his parents' house for dinner. They're nice people, generally speaking. His mom can be a little blunt, and she definitely babies him, but I usually just smile and let it roll off my back. This time, though, she caught me completely off guard. We were sitting at the table, making small talk, when out of nowhere she looked at me with this polite smile meet smirk and asked, So, what do you actually do around the house? My son says you're not really the domestic type. I swear I felt my soul momentarily leave my body. I just blinked at her, stunned, and gave this awkward little laugh while trying to process what she had just said. I managed to say something like, well, if by, not domestic, you mean I do everything, then sure. She didn't even chuckle. She just stared at me like I was being defensive or sarcastic, like I had something to prove. And my boyfriend? He looked vaguely uncomfortable but didn't say a single word. Not to defend me. Not to clarify. Nothing. The drive home was silent until I finally asked him, why would you tell your mom I'm not the domestic type? He looked at me like I was overreacting and said, I just meant you don't really enjoy housework. I couldn't believe it. I asked him who on earth actually enjoys housework. Does anyone really wake up thrilled at the idea of scrubbing a toilet or folding endless piles of laundry? That doesn't mean I don't do it. It means I'm not a step-forward wife who takes joy in thankless labor. He shrugged and said it was just a joke and I shouldn't take it so seriously. A joke. That he made to his mother. About me. Behind my back. After doing almost nothing himself. I was furious, but instead of blowing up at him again, I decided to do something different this time. I decided to take a break from his laundry. I didn't make an announcement. I didn't give him a warning. I just quietly stopped including his clothes in the laundry I did. I kept washing mine. I folded my sweaters. I hung up my dresses. I refilled the drawer with clean socks and underwear, for me. His laundry basket, on the other hand, started overflowing by the end of the first week. At first, he didn't seem to notice. He dug into the back of the closet for those mismatched old socks he never wears. Then I noticed him re-wearing the same hoodie for 3 days in a row. By the second week, he started making comments. Did you do laundry already? I'd reply, yep, and leave it at that. He looked confused but didn't press it. It wasn't until day 12 that he finally said something more direct. He was holding up a pair of jeans like they had personally betrayed him and said, Are you mad again or something? You haven't done my laundry. I didn't even look up from my book. I said, I thought you said I don't do anything around the house. So I figured I'd live up to the label. He looked stunned, then annoyed. He said I was being petty and acting immature. I told him if that's how he saw it, maybe he needed to rethink how much he's actually been contributing before accusing me of being unreasonable. That would have been the end of it, except for the next day, I got a text from his mom. She told me I needed to let it go already, that couples joke about these things all the time, and that I shouldn't let one comment create tension in the household. She said her son was trying his best and I should be more understanding. I was absolutely done. I replied, I'll be happy to let it go, right into the washing machine with the rest of his responsibilities. She didn't respond after that. Since then, my boyfriend has started doing his own laundry. Badly. He shrunk a sweater and turned a white t-shirt slightly pink. But he's doing it. I haven't gone back to including his clothes in the wash. He hasn't apologized beyond the shallow, sorry you're mad, kind of apology. And no, he still hasn't said anything to his mom about her out-of-line comment either. Now I'm wondering, was I wrong to handle it this way? Was it petty to make a point with the laundry? Or is this what it takes for someone to realize that not enjoying housework doesn't mean you get to act like your girlfriend is your maid? I'm tired of being the invisible labor in this relationship. Tired of being the undomestic one while folding someone else's boxers. So, am I the asshole? Update 1. After the whole laundry thing played out, after I watched him fish a damp t-shirt out of the dryer that he'd forgotten to actually turn on, after the fourth pair of socks went missing into whatever parallel dimension neglected laundry always finds its way to, I realized something. Why stop there? If the only way to get him to notice what I do is to stop doing it, then maybe I should actually stop doing all of it. Not in anger. Not even out of spite. Just in the spirit of equality. Just in the name of balance. So I did. No more dinners. No more cozy, home-cooked meals waiting when he walked through the door. No more perfectly seasoned pasta or baked salmon with lemon and herbs. I started making myself quick solo meals, grilled cheese, cereal, takeout. I ate at the counter, listening to podcasts. If he asked what was for dinner, I'd glance over and say that I wasn't sure, I hadn't thought about it. He'd stare at me like I was speaking in riddles. Grocery shopping. I stopped that too. I bought what I needed and nothing more. No snacks for him. No cold brew he liked. The fridge looked like a bachelorette lived there. Yogurt, kombucha, eggs, cheese, spinach, oat milk. If he noticed, he didn't say it right away. But he definitely noticed. I stopped vacuuming. I stopped wiping down the counters. I let the little pile of shoes by the door grow like a fungus. The recycling didn't get taken out. The Brita pitcher ran dry and stayed that way. The cat litter, poor beans, wasn't scooped for days. He started pooping on the mat beside the box out of protest. That one got to me a little, but I held firm. I cleaned up after beans, but I didn't touch the litter. That had always been my job, and now it wasn't anymore. I still paid my half of the rent. I set up auto-pay for my part and let the rest hang in the air like a forgotten chore list. The utilities were in his name, something we'd agreed to because he said he wanted to feel responsible for something. So I let him be responsible. Fully. I didn't remind him. I didn't nudge. When the internet got cut off for a full day, he stormed around the apartment like the walls had personally insulted him. I sat calmly on the couch with a book and said it must be hard to remember bills when someone else usually handles it. He didn't appreciate that. By day 4, the apartment looked like something between a dorm room and a crime scene. Takeout containers stacked on the coffee table. Dirty dishes sat like shrines in the sink. Laundry unfolded. Socks disappeared into crevices. Dust settled on the TV console like snowfall. The cat, in full protest, knocked a glass off the kitchen table. I watched it shatter. Neither of us moved. On day 6, he came home, looked around, and said with genuine confusion, "Are you on strike or something?" I told him I was just living like he does. Isn't this what not being domestic looks like? He didn't laugh. He didn't say anything for a full minute, then wandered off muttering. He started complaining more. Not about me directly, at least not at first, but about everything around him. He was tired. The apartment was disgusting. The bathroom smelled weird. There was nothing to eat. His shirts were wrinkled. His socks didn't match. He kept asking what was wrong with Beans. I reminded him that maybe cats don't love living in filth. He didn't like that answer either. The worst part for him, I think, was watching me go about my life unaffected. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't pleading or negotiating or sighing. I was peaceful. Detached. I had let go of the mental labor I had been carrying for both of us, and I don't think he realized how much of that burden had been invisible until it dropped at his feet. That's when the calls to his mom started. I overheard him once, pacing in the bedroom, saying that I'd completely changed, that I wasn't doing my part, that he felt like he was living with a roommate instead of a girlfriend. I just sat in the living room petting Beans, who had finally gotten a fresh litter box, courtesy of me, but only after moving it into my room. My space was clean, comfortable, quiet. His. Not so much. A day later, I got another call from his mom. This one was not passive-aggressive. It was just aggressive. She asked me if I was punishing her son. She said it wasn't healthy for couples to compete over chores, that relationships were about give and take, not tit for tat. She said my behavior was sending the wrong message about maturity, that I was acting like a martyr, and that no relationship could survive when one person decided to keep score. I told her plainly that I wasn't keeping score. I had just stopped playing a game I was never supposed to be in alone. She hung up. Update 2. 2 weeks into the full household strike, Tyler, yes, let's call him by name, Tyler, shifted gears. The first phase of denial, passive complaints, and delegation to his mother had clearly failed him. The apartment still looked like a war zone. Crumbs lined the kitchen counter like a dusty border. Dirty socks clung to the corners of the couch. The trash can was so full the lid no longer closed properly, giving the kitchen an aroma that even our cat, Beans, seemed offended by. Tyler had worn the same pair of jeans 3 times in a week, each time giving them a theatrical sniff as if his nose might absolve him of doing laundry. And I had yet to make a single dinner that wasn't exclusively for myself. The invisible workload I used to carry now sat fully visible, unapologetically sprawled across our shared home like a toddler mid-tantrum. So he decided to try something new, polite asking. At first, it was hesitant, experimental. A soft voice and a gentle tilt of the head. He asked if I could make dinner one night because he'd had a long day. As though my days were airier and free of gravity. I told him that I had too, and that he was welcome to cook or order something, but I was off the clock. The look he gave me was one I'll never forget. Not angry, not even disappointed, just stunned. It was the face of someone realizing that a service they had silently come to expect as part of the scenery was not actually guaranteed. Like discovering that the sun doesn't rise on command. That night, he attempted to make frozen chicken nuggets. And I say, attempted, because half came out blackened, shriveled and crunchy in the worst way, and the other half were soft and pale with the internal temperature of a haunted cave. He stood there, eyes narrowed at the plate like it had sabotaged him, dipping one of the less crispy survivors in ketchup as if that might redeem it. He didn't clean up afterward. Grease stains tattooed the counter, breadcrumbs scattered like confetti across the stovetop, and the baking sheet sat forgotten in the sink. I didn't say a word. I ate my own dinner, grilled cheese with tomato soup, in silence, watching him navigate his burnt offering with the same confusion a cat shows a cucumber. The next few days were an education, though not the one he'd expected. I walked in from work one evening to find him hunched over his phone in the bathroom, perched on a closed toilet lid, watching a video titled, How to Clean a Toilet Without Throwing Up. The volume was up. The narrator was British and disturbingly enthusiastic about limescale. The smell of generic lemon bleach clung to the air, not quite masking the underlying truth that he'd used way too much and still hadn't gotten to the base of the bowl. A mop lay splayed in the hallway like it had been tossed during a battle. I stepped over it, made myself a cup of tea, and left him to his war. Something shifted in his behavior after that. Not a dramatic transformation, nothing worthy of a montage, but a noticeable change in the way he moved through the apartment. He started shadowing me as I went about cleaning up after myself. Not intrusively, not accusingly, but curiously. Like someone watching a magician pull a coin from behind an ear, trying to figure out where the trick was. I'd rinse out a pan, and he'd hover a few steps back, eyeing the sponge like it was a foreign tool. I saw him squinting at the vacuum cleaner once, trying to identify which button did what, like it was a cursed artifact. He didn't ask for help. He just observed, soaking in years of unnoticed routine like a latecomer to a class he didn't know he was enrolled in. Eventually, I realized I needed to speak plainly before the lesson lost momentum. I sat him down. No theatrics, no sarcasm, just clarity. I told him I was his girlfriend, not his maid. That if we were going to live together, we needed to live together, as in, jointly participate in the reality of daily life. That meant splitting the work. Not this vague, half-hearted, I'll do it later version of sharing, but actual effort. I laid it out. I was tired of being the only one who noticed when the trash was full, who remembered we were out of dish soap, who washed the sheets, who scraped the cat's vomit off the hallway rug without fanfare. I told him it was not heroic to do nothing and expect applause when you load a dishwasher once a month. He didn't take it well. He immediately jumped into defense mode, saying he wasn't good at this stuff, that he'd never had to worry about it before. I told him that was exactly the problem. That reaching adulthood without learning how to function in a home wasn't cute or charming, it was a symptom of someone who had always been taken care of, and expected that pattern to continue. I reminded him that incompetence isn't a shield. That not knowing how to do something is fine when you're learning, but not when you use it as a lifelong excuse to make someone else do it for you. The conversation spiraled into an argument. He accused me of being cold, of keeping score, of changing. I told him I hadn't changed, I just stopped over-functioning. That I was no longer interested in preserving a dynamic that treated me like a background character in my own home. He sulked for a few days. Passive-aggressive sighs, extra noise when loading the microwave, pointed remarks about how some people just love cleaning. There were moments where I wondered if we'd make it through. For a while, it felt like we were trapped in a stalemate. He would stack the dishes but not wash them. He would move the laundry from the washer to the dryer but not fold it. Half attempts, little guilt-soaked gestures that meant well but didn't mean much. Then, slowly, quietly, something shifted again. I came home from work and noticed the dishwasher had been emptied. No request for thanks. No mention of it at all. Later that night, I heard the distant hum of the vacuum from the bedroom. I walked out to find him slowly pushing it across the living room. He missed corners. Left streaks. But he was trying. He took out the trash without being asked. He replaced the bag. He scooped the cat litter and didn't make a single exaggerated gagging noise. There were subtle signs of change, a fresh sponge by the sink, an unwrinkled shirt on a hanger, a pack of sponges and trash bags in a grocery bag on the counter, items I hadn't purchased. One night, I opened the door and for the first time in weeks, the apartment didn't feel like a neglected dorm room. It wasn't perfect, but it smelled clean. There was music playing from his phone on the kitchen windowsill. Tyler stood at the stove, stirring something in a pan with the stiff posture of someone following steps carefully. He glanced over when I walked in and said it was just chicken and rice. He had made a batch for the week. He'd portioned it out. He had watched a video to learn how to do it properly. He didn't expect praise. He didn't ask for validation. He just said it wasn't great, but it was a start. Baby steps. Update 3. It's been a month since the great domestic strike began, and the dust, both literal and metaphorical, has finally settled. And things are different. Tangibly, undeniably different. Not perfect. There are still socks that mysteriously vanish and trash bags that stretch a little too full before getting taken out. But there is a noticeable shift in the air. In our routines. In how we exist together. Tyler does the laundry now. Not just his own, but mine too. Without me asking. Without a huff or a martyr's sigh. He knows how to separate lights and darks, which cycle to use for delicates, and that my wool sweater doesn't belong anywhere near the dryer. He folds the clothes, stacks them neatly on the bed, and even hangs my blouses. I walked in last week to find him holding a pair of my leggings like they were made of parchment, carefully smoothing the fabric before folding. It was such a simple thing, but I nearly teared up. Not because he folded pants, but because he noticed they needed folding and did it without me even being in the room. We've started alternating dinners. One cooks, the other cleans up. It's become less of a system and more of a rhythm. Sometimes we cook together, standing shoulder to shoulder at the stove, bumping hips and tasting sauces off wooden spoons. Other times, one of us orders takeout and lights a candle anyway, just to make it feel like we tried. The point is, the labor feels shared now, not expected. Not invisible. We sat down one Sunday morning with coffee and made a shared to-do list for the week. Nothing fancy. Just a whiteboard on the fridge and a couple of dry erase markers. But it's become a silent agreement between us. Whoever walks by checks it. Adds to it. Erases a task when it's done. It's basic and completely revolutionary. He even offered to manage the grocery list. Downloaded the shared app, synced it to our calendar, and updates it without prompting. The first time I heard him say, "We're out of almond milk. I'll grab some after work," I nearly dropped the spoon in my cereal. It wasn't the almond milk itself, obviously. It was the awareness. The participation. The understanding that household management is made up of dozens of small, unseen, unthanked decisions, and that I no longer have to make all of them alone. There was also an apology. A real one. Not a half-hearted, "I guess I messed up," mumbled into the ether, but a proper acknowledgement. One night, over a dinner he'd cooked, grilled chicken and roasted vegetables, with the tiniest bit of burnt on the carrots, but he tried. He looked at me and said he hadn't realized how much I was doing until he had to do it. That he had taken it for granted. That he was sorry. He said he hadn't meant to be dismissive, but he had been. And then, in a moment I never expected to witness, he admitted that what he'd told his mom wasn't fair. That I wasn't undomestic. That I'd been carrying the weight of two people without complaint, and he had the nerve to turn that into a punchline. And he told her. On his own. Without prompting. He told his mother the truth, that I had been managing nearly everything, and he had coasted on the comfort of not needing to learn. That her comment at dinner wasn't just out of line, it was rooted in a version of events that was never real. He told her I had been doing most of the work, and he had failed to see it. She hasn't called me since. No passive-aggressive texts. No concerned check-ins. Just silence. And I'm okay with that. The atmosphere in our home has changed. We still joke around, watch bad reality shows together, argue about which Trader Joe's snacks are superior. But there's an underlying current now that wasn't there before. Mutual effort. Mutual respect. We each take up space in the relationship, but we also carry weight. He doesn't wait for messes to clean themselves anymore. He doesn't wait for me to notice what needs doing. He looks. He does. He participates. We're in a new rhythm. Not a perfect one. Not one where we get gold stars for every completed chore. But one where I don't feel like I'm screaming into the void every time I ask for help. One where I'm not the manager of our life while he drifts through it like a guest with a generous host. And yes, I know it might sound petty to some. That it took a laundry strike and a full-on household shutdown to get us here. That I had to stop doing everything just to prove I had been doing everything. But I don't regret it. I don't regret letting the dishes pile up. I don't regret the awkward silences or the toilet scrubbing tutorials or the burned nuggets. Because through that mess, he finally saw the truth I had been carrying on my back every day. That domestic labor is real, relentless, and too often invisible. I'm not the asshole. I'm just done accepting the bare minimum. And thankfully, he's finally stepping up.